So, let's take a look at some morphology. We are going to look at verb forms for English and in Latin. Morphology. So, let's take a look at the sentence we looked at last time. A book is given to me. Here we have is. This is a form of the copula. Copula being the verb to be. This is an auxiliary needed to form tenses. We have given. This is the past participle. Now, to form this present tense, we need the past participle because English does not have mediopassive morphology to form tenses with, to conjugate with. So instead, we have the past participle uses. Now, English does actually use other sorts of constructions to do passive voices. We'll look at those later. But for now, let's take a look at the mediopassive forms of Latin. So, here we have some forms. On the left, we have active forms. On the right, mediopassive. So for English active, we have give, givest, gives, give. Now, we are going to use things like givest because we are going to translate into English with the English thou for a second person singular, Latin tu. And we're going to use the grammar that goes with thou. This is something that books ought to do. And if it's something you need refreshment upon, I suggest you do so now. So, on the right we have Latin forms, and I did put in macrons to help you out this time. So, dor, daris, datur, damur, damini, dantur. Now, of course, we don't have anything for English mediopassive, now do we? We get nothing. Nothing to form with morphology to make actual conjugating. We just use past participle. So, now let's take a look at some conjugated tenses of Latin. The verb to give, dare, and from top to bottom we are looking at the present of the imperfectum, do. Now, of course, the imperfectum is the imperfect aspect. The second, dabam. This is the imperfect past of the imperfectum. Then we get into the perfect aspect, or the perfectum. Deidi. Now, of course, as you should have read, deidi can actually be either I gave or I have given, because the Latin present of the perfect aspect is either resultive or it's just past preteritive. Deidi. Now, of course, passive is really mediopassive, so I put quotation marks there. Dor, dabar, datu sum. Now, we are going to look at datu sum right now because it's actually pretty important to go over datu sum. Do not want to translate datu sum as I am given. Be very careful not to mess that up because you see that sum there. I am. I am given is basically a present tense in English, and it lines up to the Latin imperfectum. But we're not looking at the imperfectum right now, are we? We're looking at the perfectum. It's about completed action. Datu sum, completed action. Now, of course, we're not going to think about the English passive promotion. We're going to forget about that for now. But anyways, I'm now going to give you a cumbersome translation for datu sum, which is not a very good translation. Well, in some ways it is good, but anyways, this translation is going to help you forget about the mistake of saying I am given. So the translation is, I am the one who has been given. It's a very cumbersome translation, but for now, it's something that I want you to keep in mind. I am the one who has been given. Now we'll look at English again. On the left here we have active. On the right we have quote-unquote passive. So here we have two aspects, the simple aspect and the perfect aspect of English. Now, we are not going to look at the progressive aspect or the perfect progressive aspect, those bastard aspects of English. We're going to pretend that English just has two aspects, these very old aspects. And the first aspect is simple. I give, I gave, present versus preteritive. The perfect aspect, I have given. In English, the perfect aspect, it's present of the perfect aspect, it can actually have other things going on besides the resultive, but we're going to pretend it's just resultive. I have given. And then I had given. And then we have the passive forms, quote unquote, I am given, I was given, I have been given, I had been given. So, now we can move on back to that sentence that we looked at before. And we're going to see a chart again. Now, if you don't like charts like this, Maybe you're the kind of person who doesn't like charts, like you don't like Punnett squares in biology. Well, you're going to have to like them now. Anyways, let's take a look. The subject is the patient, which is something that happens in a passive construction. Liber datur mihi a carmine. Now remember, it's liber, not liber, which that means something else. Liber can mean free or other things. But anyways, liber. In English, a book is given to me by Carmine. You don't actually need to mention the agent. In lab reports in biology, you do not mention agents. Or you're not supposed to, at least. But you don't need to mention them. So we have the agent here. It doesn't necessarily need to be mentioned. But where's the beneficiary? Well, the beneficiary, mihi. There's where your beneficiary is. So it's very important to understand all of these different terms, how they line up with the grammatical terms, and to create a little chart if you need to.